News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 in for Bill Walter. I'm Will Feelright with your news update this hour, brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. A woman died this morning in a vehicle pedestrian crash in downtown Logan. The accident occurred just before 10 a.m. at 200 North and Main Street. Logan City Police Assistant Chief Jeff Simmons said initial evidence suggests that the victim was in a motorized wheelchair, and as they were attempting to cross Main Street on the south side of the intersection, they were hit by a semi-truck attempting a right-hand turn from 200 North onto Main Street. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Their identity has not been released pending notification of family. Simmons was able to confirm that the victim was an adult female. Now, law enforcement partially blocked off the intersection for over an hour as they investigated the crash. Simmons said the male driver of the cement truck remained on the scene and was cooperating with law enforcement. They were emotionally distraught following the crash. Well, coming up, a hunter who mistakenly shot a dog when she thought it was a wolf has been cited for animal cruelty. The story is on the way as we have a beautiful forecast continuing through the rest of the day and into the weekend. As temperatures been in the low 50s today, tonight will drop into the low 30s, then mid-50s for Saturday and Sunday, high 50s for Halloween Monday. Looks like for trick-or-treaters Monday night, temperatures are going to be down around the mid-30s with mostly clear skies. Tuesday, temperatures are going to be in the low 60s before we have a chance of showers coming for Wednesday and Thursday. Well, a Montana woman has been cited for animal cruelty for shooting and killing a 6-month-old husky that she apparently thought was a young wolf. An investigation began back in September after the woman shared pictures of herself with the animal's head and hide on social media and bragged about killing a wolf. The husky was among a group of 18 dogs and puppies that had been abandoned on National Forest land in northwestern Montana. The Flathead County Sheriff's Office says the investigation led to a misdemeanor citation and not a felony charge because deputies could not prove negligence. They could not prove intent, but only negligence. Now, the citation gives the woman 2 weeks before she appears before a justice court. And yesterday, the Utah Department of Health reported that during the last week, there had been 2,119 new cases of COVID-19, while also 116 patients are currently hospitalized throughout the state, 15 of them in intensive care units, and 9 more people have died during the last 7 days. Get more on these and other stories at CacheValleyDaily.com. I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
This is David from Roof Rescue. Please join us in our Halloween food drive benefiting the Cache Community Food Pantry. We have donation containers in the following locations: in Logan at the Logan Rec Center, in Providence at the Providence City Office, in North Logan at the Hanson Family Sports Complex, in Hyde Park at the Hyde Park City Building, and in Smithfield at the Smithfield Rec Building. Thank you for your support. The donation containers will be out until October 31st.
Evan McMullin says he's independent. The Democrat Party knows he's not.
Cheers rang loud after Utah Democrats reached a decision
to join Evan McMullin.
Democrats chose to back him.
Why are Biden's allies pulling out all the stops to elect McMullin? Because he'd do their bidding in the Senate. Conservatives know he's a Democrat in disguise, but sometimes his mask slips. His positions on issues match the Democrat platform. He wants to weaken the filibuster, backed Biden's radical Supreme Court nominee, attacked police budgets, supported reckless spending, more debt. He's just another Biden liberal, even campaigned to make him president.
I plan to cast my vote for Joe. Imagine the America we can have.
Imagine the damage after 2 more years of a Democrat Senate giving Biden free rein. Utah can stop him if we stop McMullin first. Crypto Freedom PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Crypto Freedom PAC. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. 202-971-1316.
Even though the weather's grown colder, you still have time to have your fruit trees pruned. Logan Extermination says your trees need to be trimmed back in order to achieve success next year. And this is the first step to a bountiful harvest. However, you could do more bad than good if you don't know what you're doing. Save the headache and call Logan Extermination today and get a jump on tree pruning. Prices will vary depending on your needs. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology cares about you and your hearing. Dr. Paul Danes has always called Cache Valley home and cares about its people. And Dr. Danes offers state-of-the-art equipment, allowing him to provide the best service and care possible when it comes to your hearing. So if your hearing isn't what it used to be, give Dr. Danes a call at 753-HEAR or visit CacheValleyHearing.com to see what they can do for you.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a story that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family, things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, we just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You join because you are not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM. Online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to the For the People movie show. Yeah, you heard it right. Special 2-hour movie show because there is a lot to recap, a lot to look back on through the summer, a lot to look forward to in the fall, which is stacking up to look like a bit of an extension of the summer movie season, not something you often see right before those big holiday films are released or at least announced. But that's kind of what's happening. We'll talk about it all, as well as what you can get out and see to scare yourself or scare others, if that's your goal. Looking for a creepy Halloween date night, there are options. Looking for something to sit at home and enjoy being creeped out in the privacy of your own home, there are options. And we'll also recap not only some of the scariest movies on Andy's list, but our official survey of our listeners, which we started 2 weeks ago on scariest movie scenes. Doesn't have to be a scary movie per se. It can actually just be a scene in a movie that really made you jump. And we've got the list. So For the People movie show, Andy Morgan joining us in just a couple of minutes. What's playing in Logan that you can get out and see? There is Till. This is not a Halloween movie, although the subject matter is unpleasant. It's told in a pleasant way. Till is described as an emotional and cinematic rendering of the true story of Mamie Till Mobley's relentless pursuit of justice for her 14-year-old son, Emmett Till. Emmett Till is a famous figure in history. In 1955, Emmett was lynched before an audience, believe it or not, who cheered while visiting cousins in Mississippi. This is the story of his mom seeking justice. Kind of a lost part of the story, but an important part of the story. It's a sad thing to know is a part of our history. And this is the story of at least some steps taken to make it a little bit more right in the world. But the length of time it took is, this is an infuriating movie, let me put it that way. But it's an important one, and you should see it. It stars Frankie Faison, Kevin Carroll, Whoopi Goldberg, and is in theaters here in Logan. It is rated PG-13, runs about 2.5 hours. It's a long movie, but it is listed as a documentary drama, a dramatization of actual events. So Till is in theaters here in Logan New this weekend. Black Adam. From what I'm reading, this is the one to skip. But if you are a Rock fan, he doesn't want to be called that anymore. I'm sorry, The Rock, but you will always be The Rock to the rest of us. But Dwayne Johnson stars in this action-adventure, the, quote, first ever feature film to explore the story of the DC superhero Black Adam. It's a great idea, and the character is amazing, and Dwayne Johnson's actually perfect to play it. I haven't seen it, but from what I'm reading, that's the only thing about this that goes right, is the casting. Everything else, according to the Chicago Tribune's critic, goes embarrassingly wrong. How these types of mistakes get past the editorial room is beyond me. Kind of a scathing review there. If you're looking for some laughs and romance, George Clooney and Julia Roberts in Ticket to Paradise, still in theaters. Halloween Ends. You'll hear more about that from Andy in a bit, why he thinks this is the perfect way for them to put a tombstone on the franchise, which supposedly that's what Halloween Ends is about. Lyle Lyle Crocodile, if you don't know what it is, you don't care. Smile, also a horror movie, started September 30th, but still in theaters here at the end of October for Halloween. The promotion on this was scarier than the movie, in my opinion, but it wasn't awful. And, of course, you can still see Viola Davis in The Woman King, which is already getting whispers of Oscar recognition. So, and finally, the one new scary movie in theaters this weekend, on top of Smile, Halloween Ends, is called Pray for the Devil, spelled Pray, P-R-E-Y. Sister Anne believes she is answering a calling to be the first female exorcist, but who and what called her? In response to a global rise in demonic possessions, Anne seeks out a place at an exorcism school reopened by the Catholic Church. Until now, these schools have only trained priests in the rite of exorcism, but a professor recognizes Sister Anne's gifts and agrees to train her. Thrust onto the spiritual front line with fellow students, Father Dante, Sister Anne finds themselves in a battle for the soul of a young girl whose Sister Anne believes is possessed by the same demon that tormented her own mother years ago. This stars Colin Salmon, Nicholas Ralph, Lisa Palfrey, and is not exactly scoring big on with the critics or the tomato meter. It's apparently kind of a tongue-in-cheek. I'm surprised they dare do this, but from what I've heard, I haven't seen it. From what I've heard, they almost try to imply this is a sequel to The Exorcist, even though it has nothing to do with the original producer, director, writer, or even characters of The Exorcist. I guess there's some hints in the film that this is a sequel to The Exorcist, but pretty brazen to do that, unless, of course, they had permission. I doubt they did. But, yeah, there you have it. And finally, something to kind of, one, highlight, and two, get out of the way before we really get into the Halloween movie and scary movie scene talk and a look ahead at the fall movie season and some of the big announcements that have come this week on that front. This is some economic data. I talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show. We'll touch on it in greater detail with Andy when he arrives in a few minutes. But this is a economic data that economists look at to gauge consumer confidence. They call it the high frequency index, and it's basically a look at travel data, specifically TSA data, how many people are coming through the line to get on planes. They look at hotel occupancy data, and they look at movie theater box office data. And what they found is contrasting 2019, before the pandemic came along, and fall of 2020, putting the two together side by side, what they found is that people are traveling about 4% more than in 2019, before we'd even heard of COVID-19. People are staying in hotels about almost 5% more than they were doing in the fall of 2019. But when it comes to movies, box office take is down 42% from where it was at this same week, last week of October 2019. And that, of course, the economists are just saying that doesn't tell us that people are expecting a recession. What it means is they're traveling, they're staying in hotels. That means people are willing to spend money. They're confident in the economy. Why movie theater box office haul is down is a whole different discussion. And I've been thinking about it since. And my theory is that post-pandemic, for whatever reason, I think it might be going to take a little more to get people's butts in seats. And I think this is an opportunity, whether they see it that way or not is another conversation. I think this is an opportunity for the big movie chains, even the independent theaters in ways they can, to step it up, to make the movie-going experience more pleasant, to make it a little more convenient to get there and get there on time. To make it a little, could you, for the love of Megaplex, find working kiosks? Just little things like that. It does add up. And you keep in mind that during a pandemic or a recession or both, as we got slammed with in 2020, people make a list mentally, even subconsciously, of things that can go from their budget. And then they don't put those things back in the budget until there's a need, a demand in their household, in their personal life. 42% less box office haul this week of 2022 compared to this week of 2019, to me says people haven't been compelled to throw that expense back into their budget. And maybe it's the quality of movies. Maybe we're still slowly getting back into that big box office summer mindset that the Avengers brought really into fruition and we got so accustomed to. Maybe there are a lot of different things, but I do think the theater experience, especially with the major theater chains, is a part of it. And I think just like MoviePass, they got a break on that one because MoviePass bankrupted themselves. But I think this is yet another opportunity for big theater chains especially to kind of wake up and realize they need to step up. We'll talk about what that might look like later on in the show. Andy Morgan joining us on the other side of this quick break here on the KVNU For the People Movie Show.
When Evan McMullin backed Joe Biden for president, he voted for every single catastrophic policy Biden's gang of socialists and tyrants inflicted on struggling Utah families. 40-year high inflation, crushing taxes, open borders, and lost freedoms. It was a bad call, but McMullin's got no regrets. We can't give Evan McMullin a second chance. We need Mike Lee now more than ever, our constant constitutional defender who never gives an inch to the forces who would destroy American freedom. The Biden-McMullin agenda drove Utahns' cost of living sky high. But Mike Lee has been a bulwark, shielding us from Joe Biden's thoughtless leadership, standing strong against rampant spending, lawless borders, and creeping socialism, even when he's had to stand alone.
I'm Mike Lee, and I approve this message because I love Utah. I love our country, and it's been my honor to serve as your senator.
Mike Lee for Senate. Paid for by Friends of Mike Lee, Incorporated.
Do you have a broken appliance? Save money and repair your appliance with Daryl's today. Maybe you'll decide you need to purchase new. If so, you can apply up to $95 of your service call toward an appliance purchase. We reduce the risk when you choose Daryl's. It's a unique deal only we can offer you. See our store for details. Daryl's Appliance Service and Sales west on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
The annual Cash Business Women's Conference is Tuesday, November 1st at the Riverwoods Conference Center. This year's event is sponsored by Nucor Steel Utah and is titled Lead Where You Stand. You'll experience a day full of learning, networking, fantastic food, and vendors. This year, the Chamber is excited to announce Nubia Pena, Melissa Seavey, and Shalon Keller as keynote speakers. Tailored for women professionals and entrepreneurs, the Cash Business Women's Conference is November 1st. Register now at cashchamber.com.
What do you think of that whole? Well, not controversy. Fans aren't happy.
Fans are never happy today.
I'm with them
about
on this
anything.
one, though. This one I'm with them on because
But why?
it's not. Because it's Chris Pratt. That's not what Mario sounds
What are
like.
you supposed to do? Get like an actual Italian guy?
I want the Italian guy from The Simpsons. Whoever does that voice.
You can't do that. You got to get a big guy. And here's the other thing. They only played 2 lines of. He said, "Mushroom Land, here we come."
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm cutting him some slack because it was this.
I bet he talks.
It was this 2-second clip.
I like this. This is my thing. I like it when they don't give everything away. Like I'm going to make a prediction.
Oh, I love teasers.
Oh yeah.
I think teasers are fun.
Let me back up. What I'm saying is.
For movies, I don't
really
there's
like
too
it with
much
like
where they put
everything in the. You're like, oh well, that's the story. I'm going to tell you right now,
or more than is in the movie, like that District 9 movie. See how I find a way to wedge that in at least once a month? I'm still mad.
You're really sad.
There was the coolest scene in the trailer for District 9 that was not in the movie.
What scene?
I don't even remember now. I just know I'm mad about it. It was the 2-minute trailer. There was the coolest scene. It was the interrogation scene, and this exchange happens, and I'm like, I'm seeing that movie.
I just remember,
and then that wasn't in the movie.
We see that happen often.
Drives me
They
nuts.
cut the trailer before they've cut the final film.
That I'm okay with, but don't cut good stuff.
But no, I'd
there
actually
was a lot of other stuff in that movie that could have been on the editing room floor.
I disagree with that, like a little bit, not argumentatively, but I would say, like if you don't know what the final cut of your movie is. Like you don't feel confident in it.
Don't put the trailer out yet.
Yeah, maybe I'd rather just see a trailer. You know, I'm trying to think of a big example. Here's
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, yeah, but
that's an example of when putting the trailer out really helps.
Can you imagine? Like, my thing is this: it's their art. Quiet, just let it come out.
I do think we need to get
calm down.
Yeah.
Like last week, this whole thing with Game of Thrones or not Game of Thrones, but House of the Dragon, where like, it's too dark. What are you looking at? Have you been outside anytime soon? That's not dark.
I've been thinking about this since, by the way, I saw the funniest joke about this, where people complaining that there were, it was a joke about people who said that they weren't upset about black hobbits, they weren't upset about black elves. What they were upset about is it wasn't true to the time, and everybody's like, this is made up.
What are you talking about?
There's this guy on Twitter that said, okay, this is obviously a fantasy recreation of a certain era, so I want us to be true to go back to that era. The actors, no character can be betrayed by anyone who doesn't have intestinal worms. Because that was a pretty common medical ailment at the time.
You just actually triggered me.
I thought that was so funny because it kind of gets at how ridiculous all of that is. But where do you think the entitlement comes from? That general entitlement of like, they owe you the story you want to see. They owe you that you're
I think it's reverse. I've struggled with this. I do think it's entitled. There is an entitlement. I cannot tell you.
Though?
I think it's
being able to
look at
interact
me,
with
look at me,
and...
look at me, look at my opinion, look at me, look at me.
Why social media?
Everybody, and it's a generation. I would say that we've officially landed in the TikTok generation, but it's not just TikTokers. Like I don't know what this conservative commentator is for Newsmax, that he was in there taking video of Top Gun and taking pictures, and I'm like, dude, put your phone away.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like have
you're
some
just annoying everyone,
and that's rare. But I would bet a lot of these TikTok, they go in there and they turn on their phone in the movie and they film. They're look at everyone's sawing. I know, but just enjoy the moment. Be in the moment, And my thing too is again, it's like I'm not telling you not to have an opinion. I'm not. But your opinion is not the gold standard, right? Two things can be true, right? I watched the quote unquote dark episode of Game of Thrones, and I don't mean dark in tone, although there was
or
that.
lighting.
But I'm talking lighting. It was similar to like the Long Night episode of Game of Thrones in 2019.
It was unpleasant to watch.
And I'm thinking to myself, what do you want here? Because they're going for a natural feel. It's on a beach. It's at dusk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's dark. It's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to look like that. Everything does not cater to you. If you don't like it, move on.
Watch.
But we're not going to flip everything around for you.
That's what boggles me, because I'm not at all trying to. I'm not going to pin this on a certain generation because
it's okay.
I
you
think
can.
I think it exists
Well, Gen Z, cough.
I'm defensive. I can get a little critical about millennials, even though I think.
Which ones are millennials? I always forget.
You and I are on the tail end of millennials. We're like the oldest you can be and still be. Well, we're in the gray area. There's this gray area between, depending on where you cut it off, between millennials and Gen X. So you and I are somewhere in there.
I actually disagree with that because I started our own group, and it's like there's maybe 25 people, and we're just called the Cools.
I'm about to do that because I'll be honest with you, I identify.
You're in that group, by the way.
Especially when it comes to entertainment, I identify more with Zoomers than I think I did my own generation. Because I get where they're coming from. I don't get at all what their experience has been. I have never been in third grade at a live shooter drill at school. You know?
I get it. Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a world where you'd never been at war, and when you come of that typical political awareness age, Trump is president. None of this happened to me, so I don't identify in that way. But I kind of get where they're coming from when it comes to. Being in this world where you can just accept or reject anything. You don't have to go see. You and I grew up at a time when whatever was new at the movie theater was probably what you were seeing. So you saw a lot of stuff that wasn't really your thing, but I remember.
Well, we also grew up in a time where there was 200 movies. Yeah. And now we're in a time, and that's
2,500.
By the way, that was peak, right?
Yeah, that was a good summer.
The year of Star Wars, there was like, congratulations, we released 34 movies, right?
Yeah,
and
hope you like one of them.
Yeah, and so Spielberg, Lucas, that whole duo blows up. They're like, hey man, let's just start making movies.
Yeah,
and so I remember I told you the year before COVID, right? 2019 was the all-time highest number of releases ever, like 960 movies. Domestically,
and that was a good
domestically.
That was, I mean,
it's like triple.
That no theaters were open.
Well, no, that's
you're talking 2019.
Yeah, it's 2019. It cut in half in 2020 and 2021.
That was the year of Avengers wrapping up.
Yes.
That was a good year.
It was.
Spider-Man,
and again,
I think, came out that same summer.
I think it was one of the highest domestic box office. So going back to your point. We didn't. It's true. We did not have the entertainment options. No. I mean, and here's the thing: you turned on the TV, you went 2, 4, 5,
Remember,
7. No, thank you.
HTN.
Yeah, Home Theater Network. Right.
They had 2 movies a month. I'm not exaggerating. For those who don't remember it, this was
Tank.
This was the predecessor to HBO. It became HBO actually.
Right. Yeah.
And they had 2 movies a month, and they just looped.
Yeah,
and you'd watch them over and over because
I don't want to watch Tank with James Garner.
Yeah,
but I guess this is what I have to watch.
Seeing it again. Every Which Way But Loose with Clint Eastwood. That was on there a lot.
Yeah,
Scrap the Caddy Clyde.
Yeah,
I still have parts memorized, but
yeah.
Here's where I'm coming from though. So what I identify with Zoomers more than my own generation is this take it or leave it approach to.
Sure,
they've got so many choices. They don't feel obligated to be into one thing. And why I identify with that is because I grew up based on my age, I'm supposed to think Kevin Smith is a genius. I'm supposed to think Singles was a great movie and
Tarantino
and that Clerks was groundbreaking and that nobody's better than Tarantino. And I love Quentin Tarantino, but I don't believe any of those things. I think Nirvana was moderately talented and just well-timed after some real electronic crap that filled the late 80s. These are all the unpopular opinions I have that will cause, when I'm around people my own age, jaws to drop. Because, honestly, I thought Singles was absolutely mediocre.
Yeah,
I thought
agree.
Clerks was funny.
Pulp Fiction is overrated.
Yeah, Pulp Fiction is extremely overrated. So is Quentin Tarantino. Although his movies are great, he is overrated. And so I grew up in this time where all these supposedly great things were happening, but I recognized
just drove their car off the road.
I recognized that they were great because Depeche Mode was one of the most popular bands in the previous decade.
And that's why everyone liked what happened in the early 90s, because the bar was really low. No offense to Depeche Mode fans, but yeah. Anyway, you're listening to the For the People movie show. We'll get back to it, running through top scary moments in movies, top scary movies, and a look ahead at the fall movie season, which is stacking up to look almost like a summer movie season. With more of Andy Morgan and the For the People movie show right after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Thank you, Jason. The news this hour is brought to you by Whole Tree Care. For the first time in recent memory, members of the Cache County Council called a press conference yesterday to air their unanimously negative reactions to the 2023 county budget that had been presented to them earlier this week by County Executive David Zook. All 7 of the council members agreed that Zook's actions have created tremendous dysfunction in the county's government and also negatively impacted the citizens of Cache County. Carl Ward said that in his 6 years on the council, this had been the worst budget that he had seen as far as the process. During the council meeting earlier this week on Tuesday, Zook had presented a dramatically different budget than the draft the council members had been working with since early September. Now, the tentative budget contains no line item detail and appears to use aggressive sales tax revenue projections and building fee increases to close the $2.4 million deficit contained in previous budget documents. Additionally, it seems that vital county services such as road projects and maintenance have been significantly reduced. Well, there are some road closures that are going to be impacting areas of Salt Lake City this weekend. UDOT officials announced they will be closing a portion of I-80 in Salt Lake City for 2 nights. Due to construction within the area, Interstate 80 will be shut down in both directions tonight and tomorrow night from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. Since there will be restrictions between 700 East and Foothill Drive, UDOT officials are advising motorists to use I-215 as an alternate route. And a bipartisan group of attorneys general are asking Albertsons to delay a $4 billion payout to its shareholders. The attorneys general first want to complete a review of Kroger's planned acquisition of the grocery store chain. Kroger this month announced it was buying Albertsons for $20 billion. The deal includes a special dividend of up to $4 billion that Albertsons is scheduled to pay to its shareholders on November 7th. The attorneys general say that Albertsons needs the money, though, to do business while regulators decide on the merger. But Albertsons says that its finances are strong and the dividend would reward all of its shareholders. Well, clear skies continuing through the rest of the afternoon as we've been in the low 50s today. Tonight we'll drop into the low 30s. With clear skies continuing into the weekend, temperatures expected to be around the mid-50s, high 50s coming for Halloween Monday, and then even warmer weather for Tuesday when we'll hit the low 60s before a chance of showers comes for Wednesday and Thursday. I'm Will Feelwright for KVNU News.
This is Raydell Gibbons, bringing you the Daily Financial Markets Report on behalf of financial advisor Mike Arnold and Edward Jones. Stocks are higher to cap off a positive week. Equities traded sharply higher today, with the S&P 500 gaining 2.5% and the Dow rising more than 800 points to log a positive finish to what was quite a strong week for stocks. Earnings reports were the primary focus today. Today, the equities closed higher with the Dow up 829 points at 32,862, and the Nasdaq closed up 310 points at 11,102. The S&P 500 closed up 94 points at 3,901. And the bond market, the 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 4% higher. Today, the price of crude oil was down 92 cents at $88.16. And the price of gold was down at $17.50 at $1,648.10. For stocks of local interest, Autoliv closed up 42 cents at 80.44. Chevron's up $2.08 at 179.98. Dominion Energy is up $2.04 at 69.41. Home Depot closed up $7.59 at 298.65. Kroger's up $1.09 at 46.77. Lowe's up $5.07 at 198.73. McDonald's Corporation's up $9.41 at 274.52. Microsoft's up $9.12 at 235.87. Nucor closed down $1.50 at $134. Philip Morris is up $2.99 at 92.53. And Walmart stores closed up $1.78 at $142.51. This has been today's Financial Market Report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, a member of the SIPC, and financial advisor Mike Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice, located at 135 North Main, Suite 102 in downtown Logan. If you'd like additional information, please contact our branch office at 753-2915. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
We might all agree that a vacation to Vegas is good, but Hawaii is better. Same thing when you're building. Wood is good, but metal is better. If you're considering a new building for your farm or business, let Northern Steel Building show you the benefits of metal. Metal is stronger with little or no maintenance, and it doesn't burn. Find out how affordable a metal building really is by visiting northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com, or call 435-677-7300.
Hi, Cache County. It's Mark Ensign. As the election for a new county executive winds down, ask yourself this question. Do you want more of the conflict and dysfunction that's been going on all year? Or do you want to get back to the business of serving Cache County and our residents? To restore trust, transparency, and cooperation, write in Mark Ensign for Cache County Executive.
To learn more, visit ensignforcachecounty.com. Paid for by Mark Ensign.
This is former Cache County Executive Lynn Lemon. I wholeheartedly support Mark Ensign. I hope you will make the extra effort to write him in for County Executive.
I've been driving trucks for a long time. Safety is my #1 priority. I know that my truck has huge blind spots. That's why I remember to check my mirrors often for smaller vehicles. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're behind the wheel, try to avoid lingering in those blind spots. It can be dangerous. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Coming up on the Monday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, a week to go, my friends, before Election Day, and the big results coming in. We are going to break down the latest polling, the biggest themes, the most important battles. And Clay, what do you got?
It'll also be Halloween. We'll have some fun there. And we'll be joined by Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky as he prepares for re-election in the great state of Kentucky. Come hang with us on Clay.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
So many social engagements, so little time.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People movie show with Andy Morgan of Andy at themovies.com. We're talking about scary movies, scary movie scenes, asking listeners if you've got a favorite scary movie scene.
There's a movie that came out this weekend.
Yeah.
It's the
Halloween themed, I hear.
it's actually called Halloween Ends. And here's
this is the third in a trilogy, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of Halloween movies over the course of, since John Carpenter's original. Michael Myers, Rob Zombie tried his hand in it for, I think, a couple.
Oh, that's right, he did. And his were different.
John Carpenter does not acknowledge them. He made that clear.
He acknowledged nothing but the first one.
Well, the first one was like a remake. He doesn't like any of them, and he pretty much made that clear. Yeah. But then, weirdly, Danny McBride and
Halloween 3 doesn't even have Michael Myers in it, right?
No,
that's how far it went.
Well, then remember they had Halloween H2O or something like that.
Oh, that's right.
They really
somehow got Jamie Lee Curtis to do that.
Yeah, I mean, let's
Josh
be honest.
Hartnett too.
Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, all these guys, Leatherface, they've just been extended over and over and over again because it draws audiences. But this is what we're talking about. Most of that would be considered just campy schlock, just garbage, really, for the most part.
The original Halloween only has one really scary scene.
Yeah, and the question is,
the rest of it's just creepy music.
Well, but let's be honest. The original Nightmare on Elm Street, while it's corny today, the original Halloween, while it's corny today, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, while it's still unsettling today, those three movies, even though they're corny, they still stand the test of time because that was the original. That was the original, and it was original, right? It's just it's the repeated bringing back,
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is so uncomfortable. That's one of the few horror movies I've seen multiple times that I actually still I don't enjoy it.
Yeah,
I don't.
No, you're right.
That meat tenderizer scene.
Yeah, it's
a quick scene and it's not particularly gory. There's something about this is so brutal. It's just like
a lot of times when I've tried to rewatch that, because it is scary.
Yeah.
But as I've tried to rewatch that, I get to that scene. He steps through that sliding door, and the guy's laying there on the ground, and he just goes whack.
Yeah.
And then what happens after that? It's just I'm like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah,
and I shut it off.
Yeah. So,
but if you've never seen it, it is one of the scarier horror movies in the classics.
Yes,
realm.
it is. And that started Tobe Hooper's career. But this,
for better or worse, right?
In 2018, of all people, Danny McBride and his whole crew, which are usually associated with comedy, they brought back Halloween. But what they did, what I liked about it, was they took it and they said, okay, look,
let's end it.
Well,
but that's kind of how I felt about that.
But they fast forwarded. They said, what would happen if 20 years later, 30 years later, Laurie Strode, she's in her 60s, 70s, whatever it is.
So this
Michael Myers is in an institution.
This is a trilogy, but McBride said, think of this as one long movie, 6-hour movie that is actually the first sequel to the original
right,
Halloween.
Exactly. They just basically said, forget that there was Halloween 2, 3, 4, H2O, all that crap.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do here. And that first Halloween that they did in 2018 was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never liked the Michael Myers character. I think the franchise is corny.
That was the first time they made him scary.
It was. It was
my
great.
opinion.
It was great. Now the second one that came out last year, they skipped. Yeah, because of COVID. I thought it was a real letdown.
Which is the one with the moving bar in the kitchen? There's a thing that moves and there's a stairway that goes down to the basement.
That's the first one.
That's the first one. Okay,
Yeah.
that one was good.
Yeah, that was the first one. Halloween Kills, not great. A lot of things happen with characters in that. I think that one, they started to try to get a little messagey in the movie, so they were like, hey, what happens when we all get together as a mob and we gang up and sometimes we make dumb decisions, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
This one, Halloween Ends, it's better. It's still not as great as the first. Sequels rarely are.
Yeah.
I gave it a solid... I gave Halloween Kills... D+ because I just thought I didn't love it. This one I would give probably a C+, B- range. And
you gave the first,
and I gave the first one an A.
In this trilogy, an A.
Yeah, I thought they nailed it. This one is a lot better. It has actually one of the most disturbing opening scenes I've probably ever seen in movie history.
Really?
It's pretty disturbing. Not because it's gory. It's just how shocking it is. It happened, and I went, "Oh, what? Wait, what?" And this actually weirdly does not have a lot of Michael Myers in it.
But I think that goes back to this. When I think the mistake a lot of filmmakers make when they make horror is thinking that the monster or the threat is really something that can sustain a full 2 hours of scary, and rarely, especially Michael Myers.
The thing that's weird, though,
rarely
with this,
can they.
No, they
He's
can't.
a slow walker.
But this isn't because they really focus. They introduce a new character at the beginning of this, and because when this movie picks up, if you've watched Halloween Kills, Laurie's daughter was murdered in Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
So she's living with her granddaughter. They're trying to start a life. They're trying to leave all this behind.
She's kind of sick of being bothered by this whole Michael Myers thing.
The thread through the movie is that, but it's everyone still remembers it, and it's more like they're blaming them. They're like, well, if Laurie hadn't have baited him, and if Laurie hadn't, it's almost victim shaming is what they're doing to Laurie and her granddaughter in this, and they're kind of sick of it. And obviously Michael Myers has still never been found. He escaped. What I mean? He lost some fingers and ran away. And then I'm just gonna. I know that a lot of people are going to see this, so I'm just going to... It's also on Peacock. You don't have to go to the theater. You can watch this streaming on Peacock. That's how much confidence they have in it. But I do want to point out, I thought it was corny that, they spend probably 30 minutes, and you're just like, okay, when's Michael going to show up? And when he does, he's kind of in this little sewer hole underneath an overpass. And I didn't get the impression that Haddonfield, Illinois was a giant sprawling metropolis. And so what cracks me up is they're like, yeah, we've been looking for him. And I'm like, yeah, but you failed to check the one sewer hole that looks like somebody lives there.
It's a big city.
Hey, what's that sewer hole with all the branches on it? It looks like a tiny igloo. like a little serial killer igloo. It just made me laugh. But then I thought, what probably happened is people walked by and they were like, yeah, no, I'm not going in there. And those people were smart. Anyway, but they introduced this whole new character at the beginning. And I'm trying to think of his name. Lori's was obviously Jamie Lee Curtis. Corey. That's what I thought was weird. Yeah. Corey and Lori. Anyhow,
I thought that kind of threw me off a little bit.
And it's just like this good kid, and he gets involved in a tragedy that, again, when the movie starts, and I thought it was kind of I liked it, but I think they kind of went off the rails a little bit, and then they kind of try to bring Michael back a little bit towards the end. He's like just an afterthought. And then it all wraps up. And I won't tell you how it wraps up. But if you like the Halloween franchise, you can watch it on Peacock. If you want to go, it's a fun thing to go see with a bunch of friends. You can all giggle through the theater. Actually, the only time you're allowed to but be loud in the theater is when you see a scary movie. That's my only exception to the Andy's please shut your mouth in the movie rule. You still can't turn on your phones.
I remember seeing, and it was awful. I don't recommend it. It's not on my list, and it's not on Andy's, but I remember seeing Paranormal Activity 4, and because of the first 3, you have expectations.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where she's sitting there at the computer with the light on her face, and there's this open closet door behind her, and there's something in the closet. And I remember the entire theater, you could start to hear this little chatter.
Yeah.
And then eventually you're hearing people going, ooh, like they're making noises. And then one guy just shouts as loud as he can, turn around.
Yeah.
Stop turning your back to the closet.
I did that.
He was mad. We all laughed.
I like that. I do laugh. Like, there was a scene in this last Halloween movie where the guy goes into the kitchen to cut a piece of, banana bread or something. And then he hears something, so he leaves. And, you see this chopping block with banana bread and a big knife.
Ooh.
And then he comes back later and the knife's gone. And everyone's like, aw, because they know somebody's got the knife.
It's not going to end well. You're listening to the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan, recapping horror films in theaters now and on streaming services now that you can see. Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus have all put a Halloween collection together, so you can find basically everything they have to offer. There is some original stuff as well. Netflix's Midnight Mass and The Midnight Club, highly recommended by me at least. Not really scary, just Halloween themed. Halloween content, really, but really well done and compelling stories, too. So check those out if you're inclined. We've got more to cover, of course, doing an extended movie show today to try and get to all of this. We also have the fall movie season announcements to talk about. It's looking a little bit like a bonus summer movie season. We'll explain why later on in the show. With Andy Morgan here in the studio, you're listening to the For the People movie show, which returns right after this.
With so much financial uncertainty, are you wondering if your retirement savings will last? The market's ups and downs can keep you guessing, especially if you're approaching retirement or considering it. Your Edward Jones financial advisor can help. If you have more questions than answers about what's next, they can work with you to help ensure you're prepared for the future. After all, retirement isn't the end of the road, it's a new beginning. Call one of the 7 branch locations in Cache Valley or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is County Executive David Zook. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I'm working hard to keep Cache Valley safe with things like cell towers in Logan Canyon and tougher sex offender laws, to fix our roads, especially Main Street, to help you deal with inflation by keeping taxes low and tackling our housing and gas price issues, and to preserve our farms, water, and open space. This is David Zook, and I ask for your vote.
Paid for by the committee to make all your wildest dreams come true, and David Zook for County Executive.
Our children's education should be a top priority for all of us. Hello, this is Dan Johnson. I am your representative in Utah, House District 3, representing Logan, Richmond, and Cove. I have worked in education for my entire professional life. This issue is very important to me, and I have fought to achieve record funding for our children's education. As long as I'm in the Utah House, our children's education will be a top priority. Vote Dan Johnson this November.
Paid for by the committee to elect Dan Johnson.
When deciding on a Medicare plan, don't be just another number. Expect to be known and valued at Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Think about this. When you respond to a national Medicare mailer or an 800 number, or even give your life's history to an out-of-state telemarketer, the reality is this. You will never speak to the same person twice, and they don't have your best interest at heart. At Jessup Insurance, you will never be just another number. Call Jessup Insurance at 435-213-3200 for personal Medicare help today.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services, let us guide you.
At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Join the V Foundation team. 100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now at V.org.
If you want to connect with your kid and you need help, call the Girls and Boys Town National Hotline. 1-800-448-3000.
This is going to sound corny because we talk about signs being like, you said, it's only scary the first time you watch it.
Yeah.
One thing I think that is a good horror attribute is we talked about this with Jaws, like the things that you don't see that you kind of have to, that you sort of picture.
Yeah.
That it's
like
not
it follows in the no
set,
monster,
but
and sometimes when you see it
on screen,
it ruins it. Like The Village.
Yes,
The Village is so great for 20 minutes.
It's great for the first half, and the movie changes when they are like
when they reveal the monsters, and then you're like, well, this is
just
lame
so you know,
now.
it's not them.
Yeah.
It's us.
It would have been way
booga.
Would have been way cooler if there had actually been.
And then it just gets worse, right? But the whole first part, I was like, they should have just been real monsters.
I love the first part of that movie.
There's a scene in Signs, and the reason I feel like this scene is so scary to me and unnerving, even today when I watch it again, is because for three reasons. And it's the scene where they've already had some strange occurrences, and Mel Gibson's asleep in his bed, and he's woken with his daughter, and she's staring at him in his face.
Oh, yeah.
And she says, "There's a monster outside my window. Can I have a glass of water?"
Yeah.
And I think about how many times my kids when they were young, you're dead asleep, and you wake up and they're staring at your face and they're like, "Dad, I'm sick." You know what I mean? And you're like, and so every parent knows what that's like. So he gets her a glass of water. They go in, and then M. Night. This is at his heyday. He pulls a Spielberg there, and the Spielberg he pulls between all this is they sit down, and she says, "How come you talk to mommy in your room? Because the mom's dead." And he goes, "Well, I like to think she hears me." And and she's like, "I don't think she hears me." And they're having this like heartfelt conversation. And
he's trying to explain difficult things to his daughter.
And two things happen right there, and this is why it's genius. One is you settle down. The initial, "There's a monster outside my window. Can I have a glass of water?" While funny, but also unnerving, you forget about for a few minutes because they're having this tender conversation.
They lull you into comfort.
All he does is he looks up and he looks outside, and there's something standing on the barn.
Yeah.
And
he panics.
And it's unnerving. And then what's great is that in that same movie, there are a couple other things like that. I put another one on there is the leg in the cornfield. You know?
That is actually
horribly creepy. And then the other one that is also creepy is the birthday party video surprise. Where they're like watching on TV and they're like, "We've had this disturbing video from Brazil," right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that
was kind of
those are three that stand out to me. I was thinking of just a couple others. Remember the lawn work scene in Sinister?
Oh, yeah.
That's terrible.
That's awful. But man, is it necessary. That's one of the things I liked about Sinister.
Yeah.
And I would also put the Conjuring movies and Insidious in this group.
Want to play hide and clap?
There is nothing gratuitous. That hide and clap scene is one of the Babadook has some stuff like this in it too.
Where are you? Right here.
Yeah. And then the little girl yells from upstairs. You're like, whose hands were those then?
I
mean, it's so creepy.
And remember, there's she falls down the stairs, and then a little ball comes. Bloop, bloop, bloop.
Oh, yeah.
No, it comes out of the corner, out of the dark corner, like, hey, I thought we were going to play.
Yeah, like I'm not done playing. And you're like, And then, just so creepy. Scary movie scenes from scary movies. And not just horror movies. As Andy mentioned, that scene in Signs is quite a scene. That's it for hour one, but do not cry. You're in luck. It's a special 2-hour movie show celebrating Halloween, looking back on the summer box office, looking ahead with some of these big announcements this week on fall movie season, both streaming services and in theaters. All of that coming up in hour 2 of the For the People movie show right after this here on KVNU Logan.
News and talk is right here on your radio. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KV